I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. That is a quote by Nelson Mandela. Welcome to Trina Talk. This is the podcast where guests share their stories of pursuing their passions, living a fulfilled life, and empowering others. Each week, I talk with inspiring leaders, business owners, and people with amazing stories from around the world in unscripted conversations as they share their successes and failures. This podcast is all about empowering you to keep striving in your personal and professional life. I am your host, Trina L. Martin. Welcome to episode 150. The topic of this week's episode is Face Your Fears. My guest this week is Monica Ortega. Monica is a professional on-camera host, author, speaker, and actress. She created the travel show Monica Goes back in 2014 to inspire others to break out of their comfort zones and go on adventures. As someone who is afraid of everything, she'll put herself through almost anything to show that if the average everyday person like her can do these things, anyone can. Monica MCs at some of the biggest music festivals in the nation, has been seen in over 20 commercials, and is the co-host on the podcast Stumbling Forward. She recently published her first book, The Power of Pivoting: How to Embrace Change and Create a Life You Love. Her goal is to inspire others to face their fears, break out of their comfort zones, and learn to lean into the pivot. Hi, Monica. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to speak with you. You are a woman after my own heart. I mean, you are out doing the thing. And usually how I start this off is I always ask my guests to tell the listeners who you are and how you come to be the Monica that you are today.
Oh gosh, so many turns, right? So I'm originally from Michigan, and I've been in the entertainment industry for about 20 years. So I lived in Nashville singing and writing music. I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years doing acting and hosting. And then 7 years ago, I started my travel show, Monica Goes. And I realized I was afraid of everything. So the show kind of became about me facing my fears and breaking out of my comfort zone. And then 2020 happened. So travel came to a halt, entertainment industry stopped, and I ended up writing a book. So I wrote a book called The Power of Pivoting: How to Embrace Change and Create a Life You Love. And it's really sort of putting all those lessons into place of, pivoting in relationships, careers, all these things, and embracing that breaking out of the comfort zone more than just on travel, but really in life in general. And so, the past year that's turned into moving to Denver and now coaching and retreats and masterminds and all sorts of stuff that I never expected a couple of years ago. But like the books that I like to pivot. So here we are.
Wow. So many things. And I have so many questions for you, but pivoting, I mean, I think that's been everyone's objective in this last year and a half with, whether it was chosen or you were forced to do it. I think we all learned what that meant.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to talk to you first about is you had a travel show. And do you still do the show?
I do. Yeah. I'm finally starting to get back to it. It's been a lot more, it's always been outdoor adventure, which actually worked really nicely with a socially distanced world. And then moving to Colorado, it's been a lot of local travel here. And now we're starting to kind of branch out and get back into those traveling around the US and then hopefully international down the road.
And I love it because I love to travel and I've traveled all over the world. So it always baffles me when people have never been outside of their own city. So it's just, it really amazes me. But you said you're afraid of everything and then you got to do this travel show. I mean, how did that all come about? What made you do that?
Yeah. So it was sort of a combination of two things. At the time I was in a really unhappy marriage. My ex-husband didn't like to travel and adventure. So I thought, okay, if I'm not going to get this out of my marriage, I need to get it out of my career. And at the same time, I was taking hosting classes, trying to break into that hosting world. I wanted to be the next Samantha Brown on the Travel Channel. And my teacher told me to create my dream show as a way to get auditions. So I never really planned on it becoming a business. But so I started hiking and adventuring and filming it as a personal outlet and as a business move. And then it sort of took off, found its own audience. And I thought, I really like what I'm creating. Like I said, I started facing my fears and I thought, there's not many people that look like me that were doing this. They were all adrenaline junkies and, size 2 girls. And I thought, what about maybe some of us that are huffing and puffing up the cliff and terrified of the drop off? What about those people? So I really found a passion for trying to reach that audience and expand from there.
Wow, that's interesting because, like you said, now I used to watch Samantha Brown, so that's why I was like, "Ooh, I love it." But yeah, just everyday people, because normally you do see the people who are like the nature, people who love to hike up, Mount Everest and things like that, and just everyday people like myself that, I probably will be like, okay, I'm like 20 feet up, I'm coming down. So that's amazing that you decided to do that and that you filmed it so that other people can see what's possible for them.
Yeah,
Now,
I fell in love with the feeling of, once you push past that fear. I mean, anyone who's done it, there's so much adrenaline on the other side. There's this level of confidence. And, I didn't really think about it at the time, but somebody asked me, what have you learned from 100 episodes of facing your fears? And it's like, there's a resilience that you learn about yourself. And so I'm really passionate about helping other people tap into that and find it when it may not be comfortable, but it helps us all grow.
and that's what I wanted to lead into. So that's your core business, is helping other people overcome their fears. And how exactly do you do that? I mean, is it their fear in business, fear in life, or just in general, things that they know they need to overcome and they just need some help doing it?
Yeah, that's been the coolest thing about this whole journey the past year and a half for me is, the travel show was really inspiring them in this outdoor adventure area, maybe. But then when the book came out, it's so much about breaking out of your comfort zone, maybe for you that's going to dinner by yourself or starting over after a relationship ends, right? There's so much fear we have in different areas of our lives. So when the book came out, still didn't really expect much to come of it. Hope maybe it would inspire some people. And then there's exercises in it with each chapter. And so I ended up turning those into a mastermind. So we really do break through barriers. And with each person, it's individual. It could be mental health barrier. It could be they lost their job or they're going through relationship difficulties. And we get to the core of where that fear comes from. And then we figure out a plan of action to sort of toe that comfort zone line. And now I've combined the two with my adventure retreats, where we're going to be dealing with the mindset portion in the morning and then actually crying rock climbing in the afternoon. So I'm really passionate about that because I get to actually do it with people in person now.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so you weren't doing this prior to COVID, right?
No, it's just been the travel show. And, I was doing entertainment in LA. And then, the book happened and everything else because of COVID. So there's definitely a giant pivot for myself as well.
Wow. So let's talk about your book and tell the listeners the title of your book, and let's go into some of the things that you speak about.
Yeah. So the book is called The Power of Pivoting: How to Embrace Change and Create a Life You Love. And it does sort of go through all different aspects. And I use, my own personal journey, but it's a book for everybody. And like I said, there's exercises on how to do this stuff in your own life. But for me, I had sort of had the rug pulled out from underneath me with my divorce about 4 years before COVID. And I'm super type A and had put all these, toolkits and things into place for myself. And then 2020, I see everyone afraid of this change and going through all this stuff at once and, the mental health side effects. And I thought, well, maybe some of the things that I've learned can help people navigate through that change a little bit easier. And so I sat down and it was like 3 weeks later, I had a book and I thought, oh, I guess I've learned some stuff over the years. So it's been wild. I mean, even a year ago, I wasn't really planning on writing a book. So it's very new.
Wow. I mean, and so pivoting. So you mentioned a couple of things. So you had to
Mhm.
pivot in your personal life. We've pivoted in our careers. Did you ever think, so prior to COVID, was this ever on your bucket list to do, like, okay, I want to have a travel show. I'm going to write this book. Was that ever a thought of yours?
The show was. So, like I
Okay.
said, I basically spent my whole life in the entertainment industry. My degree was in musical theater. So, there was always like different aspects of entertainment, but I never planned on writing a book. That was completely out of the blue for me. I was trying to think about it. I'm like, when did I decide to do? I don't even know. I just kind of sat down and did it one day. But, I also thought, how can I write a book when I feel like I'm a mess? I feel like I'm in the middle of my story, but I thought my middle might be somebody else's beginning. And some of the lessons that I've learned maybe can help the people that are going through it right now. So yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, it's the coolest unexpected journey ever.
Yeah, and I love what you said, that you're in the middle of your mess, but that could be someone else's beginning.
Yeah.
And that's so inspiring, because a lot of times we're so caught up in our own thing and we don't realize how our message can really help
Yeah.
someone else get over theirs. So what I always like to ask people is, you've had your success. Tell the listeners about some of the things, some of your failures that you've, encountered along the way and that you had to overcome.
Oh my gosh, where do I start? That's easier to talk about than the success half the time. Well, a big part of it is I was afraid of everything growing up. So that was, me facing my fears was just even doing any of this. So that was definitely a big one just in general. But in terms of business, I never treated the show as a business because I didn't expect it to be. I really thought I was just doing it for auditions. And so in hindsight, I was using all of my acting money and commercial money toward travel for fun. And I didn't really do any of the business things that I should have done. And then even with the book coming out, I didn't really think past the book. And so the coaching and the retreats and all of that came very, very suddenly afterwards. So in hindsight, I would have loved to have a better plan than just like diving into all these different things. But it's worked out. But I think probably the financial part is the biggest mistakes that I've made for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. I've done that too, building my business.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's, so, and I love retreats and masterminds and things like that. So in your retreats, I know we're in COVID now, but will you find some, I don't know, travel worthy place to have these retreats where it would be something that will really push someone out of their comfort zone? Let's say maybe someone who has never traveled abroad before. So they're going to
Yeah.
travel abroad to work on whatever their issue that they want to work on.
Yeah. So my first one is coming up this September 9th through the 12th, and it's in Colorado. And I did want to do the outdoor part and also the socially distancing. So we're glamping at this gorgeous resort in the mountains, and we're doing rock climbing, horseback riding, and whitewater rafting. And part of the reason we're doing whitewater rafting is that is my big fear. The last time I went, I filmed having a full-on panic attack doing it. And so when I knew I wanted to do the retreat, I thought, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is put the thing I'm afraid of to show I'm doing it with you. We're going to get through it together. But there are different ones coming up. So there's one in Arizona. There's going to be like a wine one that's a little bit more mellow. And then, yes, the international travel. So I'm really trying to make them all very unique so that there's something for everybody. And it's different kinds of fears that we're dealing with. But yeah, I think it all pushes you out of your comfort zone, meeting new people, going to this unknown thing, right? Dealing with mindset issues, all these big things. But we're doing it together. So it'll be fun.
That sounds very interesting and, very much fun. Now, as you're planning this and people come to you for help, now, do you choose like a theme? Are you choosing a theme of whatever, or do you just tell people as a collective that, okay, if there's anything you have to overcome, come, or do you take like a poll and say, okay, well, we have so many people who want to overcome this, so many people want to overcome that, and you try to incorporate that?
Yeah, so that's interesting because I've kind of found that we all have the same sort of fears and they stem from the same thing. So I just did the first round of my mastermind, and it was super interesting to me that most of the fears people had were the same, fear of success or fear of failure or fear of letting people down. So they tended to be more general than like fear of water or fear of heights or something like that. So what we do in the mastermind is really break down where that fear comes from, and how do we get past that barrier? And then I give each person kind of their individual homework based on what it is for them. So there's like a general thing and then also some individual work that I do with people. And then the retreat is the same thing we're doing in the masterminds, just crammed into one weekend that's going to be full on.
Wow. So, it's always amazing because planning these events is a job.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with this idea? Okay, so I know you did your travel show and that was great. But what made you say, "Oh, you know what? I'm doing this and now I'm going to pivot and turn this into masterminds and coaching." I mean, because that's full on, and I don't know if you have like a team of maybe some therapists or like that's going to be with you, but what just made you want to do it so big?
You want to talk about mistakes? That might be one of them. I tend to just kind of dive in and then think I'll just figure it out. And then I realize I've dived into probably a lot at once. But no, so the book came out and, I kind of put it out in the world, didn't really think much about it. It was just kind of a thing until I got back to travel. And I had people reaching out saying, "Hey, we want to work with you. You've got these exercises. We want to work with you on our own stuff." And so I hired a business coach and I said, "All right, I have a podcast called Stumbling Forward. It's about business. I've got this travel show, and now I've got this book that talks about pivoting and divorce and mental health. I need somebody to look at the pieces and tell me, how do I put all this together?" Like, I knew the through line was breaking out of comfort zones, but how do I tell people that? How does that look? And so once I hired her, it was like, why don't you build out the exercises into a mastermind? And so we started that. And then I said, okay, but I don't want to miss this travel piece. Like, this is a big part of my heart. And once we came up with retreats, I was like, oh, like, this is it. This is 1,000% everything I've worked for however many years, and really doing it with people one-on-one it's a dream come true for me. So I'm excited for this next pivot. Completely unexpected.
So now are you giving up, your acting and you're hosting shows and emceeing, or is that still part of it?
Yeah, it's still a part of it. I work a lot. But yeah, I mean, luckily the travel show and things like that are on my own time. So like, I just filmed over the weekend in Grand Junction. That was 2 days. Now I've got, a month's worth of content. So it's really chunking it down and building those things out and trying to focus on one thing at a time of what I'm going to build out when. And then the acting is kind of random. It's whenever I get a call for an audition or things like that. My schedule is very wild. It's all over the place.
Wow. So, I mean, you have ultimately took pivoting to a whole new level.
Yep, absolutely. I am my own experiment, I guess.
That's, and that's great. And, and one of the things I love that you said, that in the midst of you pivoting and doing things, but you sought out help by getting a business coach.
Yeah.
And I want you to just tell the listeners why that's important, because I know some people may listen and say, "Oh, wow, you know what? I can do that. I vlog and I like to travel," but there's really a lot more that goes on.
Yeah. Probably the biggest mistake that I've made over the years is, like I said, diving in without a plan, which is good and bad because, I've worked with a lot of people who also have a big plan, but can't make it go. Don't take that first step. I tend to take the first step and think I'll figure it out. But like I said, it's been 7 years of, financial mistakes, business mistakes, not having this plan. And so really seeking out that help is massive. I mean, coaches in general are massive, but if you're somebody like me that maybe struggles with the big picture, I'm really type A with the small stuff and scheduling, but looking at the big picture and then also learning how to convert, because I knew I was passionate about this. For 7 years, I've created this travel show, but not really made a lot of money from it. And at some point you have to go, okay, if this is a business, I need help making it into a business that is profitable, that can convert. And so I will say, if somebody's interested in that, check out different coaches. I hired a coach years ago. She's wonderful. I love her, but I didn't feel like I got strategy. And so this time I actually kind of interviewed a few different coaches. And when I met my coach, I was like 1,000%. She gave me strategy. She gave me ways to make money. We had a plan in place just by the end of the free consultation. So, be really strategic about who you look for, but it's helped me more in the last month. I would have been completely lost without her.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I mean, and I have a couple of coaches as well. And
Mhm.
it's very important because you need someone with the big picture. And I'm like you, I'm type A, I'm like real OCD and,
Yeah.
making sure everything is where it's supposed to be and all the details. But
Yeah.
you need to get somebody that's removed from that
Yeah.
and who can see the broader, spectrum. So a lot of times we can't see it because we're in the middle of it and we got so much going on in our brains that we can't do it. So I'm so glad you said that. It just, it makes so much sense. And I want people to take that away, that it's not something that, I mean, you can get out there and do it, but to help you not make too many unnecessary
Yeah.
mistakes, you can get a coach to help you.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I feel like coaching gets a really bad name. And even when she suggested I coach, I went, that doesn't make sense. I just hired you as a coach. And she goes, yeah, but you coach in this very specific thing. You help people in the pivot get to that next step. And then maybe they hire the business coach because they're starting their business. So there's all types of different coaching. And I think sometimes we have this very like woo woo idea that somebody's just taking our money and like trying to inspire us, but they can be really practical in different parts of your life. It's the same as getting, a personal trainer for your fitness
Mm-hmm.
aspect, right? So getting that business coach for your business aspect is crucial.
Yeah. Talk about your podcast.
Yeah, so that was another fun pandemic project. So my producer, who's my best friend for Monica Goes, we had this idea of a podcast because I kept seeing all of these amazing podcasts, but about millionaires and billionaires talking about their journey. And we thought, what about people like us that maybe don't know how to do taxes as an entrepreneur or never put that business plan into place and are crying themselves to sleep because we don't know what's next, right? And so we thought, well, let's talk to entrepreneurs in the middle of their journey. So it's called Stumbling Forward. And we just wrapped up season 4. We're starting to record season 5. And it's so inspiring to listen to everybody's stories of their journey and then also learn from them. I mean, they've given me loads of advice just interviewing them. So it's been a fun little, that's just our passion project, but we love it and we hope it's helping people.
Yeah, sometimes those passion projects end up being the best thing because, like you said, you
Yeah.
get, advice from people and you get to
Yeah.
see the true side where it's not so much like someone is trying to pitch you for business.
Yeah.
So it's very, it's a different side. And I feel that same way about the podcast. I
Mhm.
started it as a passion project, but
Mhm.
it's come to be so much more. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is really great. And I end up networking and talking to people like yourself
Yeah.
that is amazing. So I'm like, wow, I never thought
Yeah.
that I would do that, and I never thought that we would be in a pandemic where I would really be talking to
Right.
people. It's just, yeah, it's great. Oh my goodness. So, okay, Monica, we're going to go into the questions. Are you ready?
All right, let's go.
Okay. You don't need another sip of water. Okay. Who or what motivates you?
My faith and my passion for trying new things.
Oh. What demotivates you?
Money, and it probably should motivate me.
Well, it's not bad to be demotivated by it. When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
My divorce. I mean, that changed my life for the better in so many ways.
Hmm. What is your fear?
I think my big fear now is never getting the family. Just age wise, running out of time.
Okay. Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Plan the business better.
Is there a time that you wish you had not done something?
No, because there's always been something amazing that's come out of my mistakes.
I like that answer. What is your definition of success?
Getting to do what I love every single day in a way that is stable as well.
How do you recharge?
Outdoors, hiking.
What are you awesome at?
Diving in before I'm ready.
What legacy do you want to leave?
That you don't have to fear change. There's really, really good things once you learn to embrace it.
Give the listeners one motivational takeaway. That one was pretty good, but do you have another one?
I'll leave you with a quote. It's my favorite quote. It's from the movie Hope Floats. Beginnings are scary. Endings are usually sad, but it's the middle that counts. Remember that when you find yourself at the beginning.
Wow. Tell the listeners how they can catch your show, if they want to get a retreat, your book, everything.
Yeah. So the main website is monicajortega.com. That has everything right there. The show is on there, but it's also on YouTube. And on social media, I'm at Monica Goes Show. And the book is available on my website and on Amazon, and that is The Power of Pivoting.
All right. Well, Monica, it's been just fun speaking with you and learning about your travels and mastermind. And I really thank you for being on Trina Talk today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you like Trina Talk podcast, please don't forget to go out to iTunes and rate it 5 stars and leave a review. Also, who else in your life do you know that needs some motivation and inspiration in their life? Don't forget to share Trina Talk with them. I hope you have a great week. And remember, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Keep striving, because success is a journey, not a destination.